Hello and welcome to our look at the Space Marines in Battlefleet Gothic Armada. So, before I start getting into this, Space Marines have one difference to every other race, and that is that you get to choose your chapter. So while they've now introduced the Fleet Painter, and you can kind of do more or less what this does anyhow for every other race, with the Space Marines you actually choose before you start playing. So you have Ultramarines, Imperial Fists, Dark Angels, Space Wolves, and Blood Angels. So I'm going to use my Dark Angels for this. And now moving forward, because this is our first video, we're going to look at all of the ships, starting as per usual with the transport ship. So for those people who have watched the Imperial Navy one, you will notice this is the exact same transport ship. Not surprising really, they're both Imperial forces. So, what have we got? So, hull integrity, it reads 200, but I do have the upgrade, so it'd actually be 150 standard. Hull's fine, sorry, it'd be 200 shield, 250 with the upgrade. Speed 112, rotation 20 degrees per second, detection 5000, troop value of 63, defensive turrets, armor 50, 25, 25, which does make it a bit of an abnormality in a Space Marine fleet armor setup wise, but as it is the same as the Imperial Navy one, not surprising. Light double macro turrets, weapons aren't really that important on this ship. Traits. So it does come with Space Marine accuracy, which, as you can see there, fairly standard, 80%, 60%, 40%, 20%. But it does also come with, and they shall know no fear. Not really an important thing for our transport ship and escort ships, as they're not going to run anyhow, but Space Marine ships, well, they don't run. Yeah, they're Space Marines. They don't care. They will keep going until they're dead. So you will always have to warp them out of there if you do want to warp them out of there, and that would obviously just be a tactical retreat. They're not fleeing. They're not scared. It's a tactical retreat. Alright, Space Marine maneuvers. Yeah, it's the same as your Imperial ones. All ahead full and your quick turns left and right. Surgical strike. So this is a nice one for Space Marines. So as you can see there, all assault actions consider the enemy troop value reduced by 10, and chances to destroy the targeted enemy substance are quadrupled instead of doubled. So this is where Space Marines really shine, is assault actions. Again, not really going to be an issue with the transport ship, but we're just covering this stuff off now. And it is counted as an escort ship. So they're harder to hit with the macro weapons, but more vulnerable to area of effect attacks. Right, all the standard here. Reload, lock on, brace for impact, running silent, and emergency repairs. So, moving on to our combat ships, we have the Gladius frigate. Now, here you can see obviously the frigate, but you can see the other ships in the background, and you'll notice that pretty much every Space Marine ship looks exactly the same. This is very similar to Imperial Navy, as you go up in sizes, is all they seem to be are bigger versions of the same design. So, we have 200 hull, 150 shield, it'd be 100 base, I've got the upgrade, 225 speed, rotation of 25 degrees per second, detection would actually be 5000, again I've got an upgrade, troop value of 70, turrets, 6 defensive turrets, and 50 armor all round. So, light double macro turrets, fairly decent. Got that 270 degree forward arc, so pretty much unless they're sitting directly behind them, they're hitting them. they're shooting at them anyhow. 2 attacks, 3 damage each, with a 3-second reload time. Fairly okay. Nothing to write home about, but not bad for a frigate. Right, then we have the Nova frigate. So 200 hull, shield 100, speed 262. I know it's a bit of a weird number, but hey. Rotation 25 degrees per second, detection 5000, troop value of 70, turret 6 and 50 armor all round. Right, so we still have a light double macro turret, but now we also have a light prow lance. So as per usual, lancers good at punching through enemy armor. And in this case it is just a 90-degree front arc weapon. So yeah. And then we have our destroyer, the Hunter. Right. So 100 hull integrity, 100 shield, 262 speed, 30 degree per second rotation, detection range of 5000, troop value of 70, 3 defensive turrets and 50 armor all round. Again, a light macro turret. This is not a double, so it only gets that 1 attack. But we do have a torpedo launcher, and this one fires 2 torpedoes. Torpedoes, standard good, ignore shields, can be shot down, but again, very good against armor. So torpedoes are good. I personally find them a bit finicky to use at times. I have gone better with them after hours of play, but yeah. Realistically, I find I'm not running escort ships too often in my Space Marine fleets anyhow, but that's them. So on to our proper ships, and starting with our light cruisers. So we get 3 choices: the Mark 1, Mark 2 and Mark 3 of the Vanguard. So starting with the Mark 1. Now obviously, just so you can quickly see, there is no difference in their characteristics, so we'll just go over that quickly. 400 hull integrity, 100 shield, 225 speed, 20 degrees per second rotation, a detection range of 5000, troop value of 70, 9 defensive turrets and 75 armor all round. So this is the thing with Space Marines. They are strong on the armor but low on hull. So they don't actually have a lot of hull, but they do have a lot of armor. So if you're versing them, lancers. If you're playing as them, look out for lancers. So weapons wise, what do we have? Well, realistically, these more or less all come with the same thing: an ordnance launch bay, light macro turrets for the broadside, and then a prow weapon. So this one comes with a medium torpedo launcher. So that's 4 torps. Now the launch bay is a little bit different for Space Marines than it is for other races. They only actually have one, and that is Thunderhawk squadrons. So this launches Thunderhawks, Thunderhawk gunships. They will provide an assault action. Yay, awesome. They're actually quite good considering these are Space Marine assault actions. And that does come with a couple of fighters as well, escort fighters essentially, so they can shoot down anything like torps that they might be going past on the way, but otherwise the fighters are really just there as an escort to take out other fighters that might be trying to take out the Thunderhawks. So our Vanguard Mark II, ordnance, light macros and a light prow lance, 2 of them. So lancers, fairly standard here. You do get 2 of them though, which is nice. So yes, 1 attack each, but 8 damage with an 8-second reload, 16 damage every 8 seconds. That's pretty decent, especially with the way that they ignore, well, not ignore armor, but reduce armor. Right, and then the Vanguard Mark III, Ordnance, light macros, and this is the Space Marine unique weapon, the bombardment cannon. So we get a prow light bombardment cannon on these. Now I like these. As you can see, they are armor piercing. They have an improved critical chance. Yeah, heavy damage is just the standard. But look at that damage. One attack, 30 damage every 15 seconds with a 15% critical chance. 15%. And these things don't have a weakness against shields. They rip through shields, and once shields are gone, they then start ripping through the enemy. I like these things. Now in saying that, they have the standard chance to hit, unlike Lancers, but damn, you know about when these things hit. So I do really like these bombardment cannons. Now, for those not up on the fluff, the reason these are bombardment cannons is because they are designed to actually bombard a planetary surface in the lead up to a Space Marine assault, whether that be through landing via Thunderhawk gunships or coming down through drop pods. But that's what these weapons are actually designed for. When you start using them in void combat, as you can see, they do a lot of damage to ships. So while we're here on our light cruisers, as you can see, on top of the orders we've already been through, we get our warp jump, our boarding action, and our lightning strike. So there's nothing actually special about these for Space Marines in terms of their actual stats. It all just comes down to the surgical strike upgrade that Space Marines get overall. So reduced troop value, which is nice, and that quadrupling as opposed to doubling for taking out the targeted subsystems. Right, moving on to the cruisers. So again, we have strike cruisers, and we have a Mark 1, Mark 2, and Mark 3. I'm willing to bet you're already seeing a pattern and probably know what to expect here. But again, just a quick look to show that we have the same characteristics. 600 hull, 100 shield, 188 speed, 15 degree per second rotation, a 5,000 detection range, a troop value of 70, 12 defensive turrets, and 75 armor all round. So now we come with 2 ordnance launch bays, macro batteries, and a prow bombardment cannon. This one's doing 45 because it's not a light. This isn't straight up bombardment cannon, but it's still got the same cooldown time. So as you can see, we really start bumping up, and it's even got a higher crit chance base. Like, they really start ramping these things up. Right, the Mark II. We have a macro battery. Now here's where it gets interesting. We still have a bombardment cannon, but instead of our ordnance launch bays, we get a heavy torpedo launcher. So that's 6 torpedoes. Right. And the Mark III, instead of our ordnance launch bays, we get a heavy prow lance. Just a single prow lance, but still we get it. Now, due to my dislike, maybe too strong, but my preference for not having torpedoes, I tend to either run the Mark I or the Mark III. I tend to keep both. And the reason for this is because we haven't seen it yet, but we have our light cruisers, we have our cruisers, then we have battleships. Space Marines have no battle cruisers. So instead you actually get 4 cruiser slots. So I tend to keep 2 Mark 1s and 2 Mark 3s around. And you get 2 battleships. So we don't have a Mark 3, we only have a Mark 1 and a Mark 2 for our battle barges. So again, as you can see, the characteristic stats are the same. 1200 hull, 400 shield, 150 speed, 5 degree per second rotation. So these things just, yeah, they do not turn quickly at all. 5,000 detection, 70 troop value, 18 defensive turrets, and 75 armor all round. Now you will note that these are relatively expensive, and there is a good reason for that. They have 3 launch bays This one comes with a Prow Heavy torpedo launcher, 2 heavy macro batteries, and 3 bombardment cannons. And then the Mark II comes with 3 lance turrets, 2 plasma macro batteries. Now I love plasma macro batteries, and I do tend to run the Mark II over the Mark I, and that's not even down to the torpedoes. That is because I really like plasma macro batteries over your normal macro batteries. High range, high damage, high crit chance. Now, because these things are so slow, I really like that range. And then the Lancers come with a 12 range as well, and a 270-degree frontal arc. So they're hitting anything that, or yeah, actually they're Lancers. They're hitting anything that's not directly behind you. Now I'm saying that because your slow turn speed. Things can get behind you and stay there relatively easily, but we can fix that with our upgrades and skills. So we'll get into that though. And 2 heavy Prow Lancers. So if there's something in front of you, yeah, this thing can just put out an obscene amount of damage. And because the Lancers have a 12-second cooldown versus our bombardment cannons at a 15-second cooldown. Now, in saying that, but the longer range on the Lancers means I'm shooting for longer. So realistically, it makes up for it. I will get more shots of this in before that. And that's the other thing. These, you have to get close. Like, that's got a 9,000 range. The bombardment cannon's only got a 6,000 range. These things are slow, and they turn slowly. So even once you do get close, something can get out of that very quickly with the way transversal works. I just personally prefer the Mark IIs, but yeah, it can be hard to go past 3 bombardment cannons, I'll admit. But there it is. That is it. That is all of the Space Marine ships. So, I hope you found this informative. And please join us again when we will be going over the upgrade skills, favors, and crew in the next video.